Right, we can get everyone on camera. This is great. Not you, no, just. And you are recorded live. There's 0 people watching.
Are you gonna swim with for whoever's talking?
No. It's too much work.
I love the jams.
Yeah, it's classic.
Are we ordering dinner, Mike? You guys want? No, I use do you know the guy said Beatty's? Do you know Joe Beatty? He's kind of a startup. He's doing t-shirts, growlers, and like hats. So he's over at Tuscany. Super cool, real fast, real attentive to his stuff. But he's startup, so like when he sends a bill out, I like pay him immediately.
Wait, Joe?
Let him wait.
His name's Joe?
Joe Beatty.
I think that's my mom's next door neighbor.
Is it? He's a Jeep.
Yes.
He's a real nice guy.
They got more square footage. He lives right next to my mother.
He's got a startup company, so whenever he sends me a bill, I like to pay him just like that.
Yeah.
Because you need it when you're a startup. So, yeah, great guy. He does all our growlers, all our t-shirts, all our hats.
Hi, Jim.
So,
Hey, Matt, how are you?
Doing well.
Yeah, he's a real nice guy.
yeah, he is really, really nice. Real thoughtful. Just a good guy. Hey, Jim, guess who this is?
Right.
Hey, you're right. What's that?
No.
They're doing good. Made a couple switches out there this week. That's kind of fun. Fired a chef, hired a chef, changed the menu, that kind of stuff, fun stuff.
No, but when there's 9 members, plus then you get all the city staff. And this is how we used to eat. And then at some point in time. Yeah.
Well, we heard it's 106.
Actually,
Almost get one.
It's not bad.
Yeah, I think.
What money have we spent so far?
But it is
I think we
very
could-
thick. So.
Well, we shouldn't talk about it. Opens, closed.
Yeah, me too. I was like,
I'm like, well, there's your 10 picnic tables.
Well, so typically, it's 10 to 15%. We'll talk about it, but engineering costs of a project are typically 10 to 15% of a project.
Whoever they are.
Yeah,
yeah, we're not
but
recording, so I agree.
typically, so like we spent $120,000 for the FEMA project and engineering fees. $1 million project. So typically that's,
Oh, I'm wondering if we could do some.
we could if we didn't do the electric,
Just,
because that's what's where that's where we need them to make sure we don't blow up the whole block.
You're gonna have to do it, might as well.
Yeah,
Yeah, well, we just call,
so,
what's it called?
Taxi driver.
Shit.
Yeah,
Miss Dig.
I know.
That's our DPW.
oh, I'm
So we don't
a man. No help with, that
Oh.
Mike down there.
Yeah, I forgot.
Contractor, no
You
help.
said you're doing.
No,
I don't have
Zero
time.
up in that.
So I met your son.
I went to
Met his son.
neurology.
You met his son before.
Then I ended downstate.
Yeah.
I didn't even know he had.
He looks just like him?
He looks like him.
That was.
Son.
He's darker hair, he works at Bay
That's
Harbor.
They massage you, then they put electrodes on you.
What are you talking about?
Electricity, then they do ultrasound.
That sounds fun.
After an hour of that.
Some people
He said he
over
was
50 talk
he was
about.
naked when they were done.
I get it now.
Done to you?
Yeah.
By the way, I met your son, or
Oh,
Bay Harbor,
okay, yep. Was he working hard or hardly working?
right up the boat.
Okay, yeah. Thank you for the nice tip.
Yeah.
Yeah, there it's, yeah. Anyway, he said something. I said, well, did he tip you? Well, yep.
Yeah. We'll get different.
I'm gonna get Does it hurt to turn that way or that way?
Always.
Graduation was good?
I had a lot of good food at the party. A lot of good food at the party.
Shaking hands.
Some good desserts, some good.
Yeah.
A lot of
Well, you're
cupcakes
gonna
left.
have time.
Was there? I had one.
Sanitize.
A bunch of Denise's cookies.
Did the kids sanitize after that, or just the?
There wasn't much left.
Just the handshake.
Oh, my God. Well, they would have, they should have picked up nothing.
Right.
Weird, I post that sometimes.
All right.
No, but we can do it. I'm gonna take a hand.
Wow.
Especially
Kids probably could care less about a handshake.
well, they didn't know. The kids,
No bills were proven,
there was
disappointed.
no.
Oh, there's some in there.
Oh, my God.
Where at?
There's a lot of them.
Hey, Nick, where at?
Where what?
Where are those bills you were just talking about?
In my office. Why?
I'm just curious, can I get a copy after?
What do you need? Bill?
Hey!
What do you need, a bill?
That's why I came.
A copy of what bill?
My son.
The one that you guys were just talking about?
Oh.
Passes, if it goes through, can I get a copy?
No. We're talking paying bills for the city.
Gotcha.
It's
all right.
I'm so glad you're here. Do you want me to wear a mask if you're here?
Because they got locked in.
I brought this because if I knew you show up, I'll wear it if you want.
They haven't seen you.
If you don't, I'm not gonna wear it.
And they're a little.
Guilty conscience is on you, Mike.
But they're a little nervous.
Don't spit on her.
You want me to wear it or not? Yes or no?
I don't care.
Tell them, yeah.
Pretend you care.
All right. I have everything.
You got it all?
Yeah, if I suddenly get up and run,
Oh, that's fine.
Maybe I should wear the mask anyway.
Who are we missing? Not missing anyone. The large crowds.
Like that one?
Got 4 people on YouTube.
oh, so
Let's see. Everyone like their angle on the camera? You guys look good? It's good. All right. Good.
Explain your. Don't ask a question you don't need.
Not looking good. And this is free. They have to keep all that. Most of the world has it. It's an interesting concept. Okay.
So, how are you?
ornery.
I am.
You need the gavel?
So we're going really good on this.
I have a gavel.
You get a gavel?
All right, let's go step to 7. Let's get this show on the road.
Right.
Pledge.
Over there.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Nick, call the roll.
Yes, sir. Mike Naturkis.
Here.
John Cups.
Here.
Matt Bugira.
Yes.
John Leo.
Here.
And CC Johnston. We do have a quorum.
Citizens comment? Once, twice, thrice. Anyone on the phone? Perfect. No one on the interweb? Take it away, Victor.
All right, so the Planning Commission met on Thursday to go over several of those recommendations. I know Matt was there, Mike was there, and I know John watched it afterwards. So we basically came back with, so there's 13 or 14 motions I think we made on this topic. So temporary changes to downtown business ordinances, other kinds of ordinances, potentially things we're gonna do at the downtown, shade sales, potentially, et cetera, using the use of public parking spaces. So what I did, I attached a 1-page or 2-page brief overview of what those topics or motions that the Planning Commission made. And then Attorney Jim Raymer and staff drafted up the following administrative ordinance number 2020-2, which encompasses all of the suggested changes that the Planning Commission recommended related to ordinance-wise. So if they decide, for example, they approve the shade sales with some conditions, but that doesn't require an ordinance, so that didn't need to be in the administrative ordinance. You want me to go through those really quickly, all the changes, just really quickly? Okay. Yeah, so the planning commission, the first one was allowing the expansion of outdoor dining and seating in front of a neighboring business, so long as that neighboring business approves and there's still at least 6 feet of clearance on the sidewalk for pedestrian traffic. So one of the examples was the paper station expanding toward the outfitter. And that the planning commission voted yes on that in the administrative ordinance. The planning commission voted to not allow public parking spaces to be used for outdoor dining. They also recommended that the city does not close down streets to vehicular traffic in order to allow outdoor dining on those streets. They were really liked the idea. They just couldn't find a logistical or a good way to make it happen in our city, at least right now. They agreed to temporarily or recommended to allow a portion of public green space, such as the Marina waterfront or Zorn Park, to be used as an outdoor dining food court, and that's in the administrative ordinance. There's 2 other sections about that. They would also temporarily allow alcohol to be consumed in this sectioned off food court, which is also in the administrative ordinance, and also to place temporary Tencel structures, which that was a term Mark Boudet gave for the shade sales, over this outdoor food court area, wherever it may be located. But they caveated, ensure that those sales are not cheap looking. The 5th one was to allow business owners to temporarily convert private parking spaces for outdoor display, sale of goods and merchandise. They did have a recommendation that it's not 24/7, that there are some limited days and hours of doing that. 6 was to evenly distribute curbside parking spaces throughout the commercial business district. That conversation came up about, who should get the curbside spaces, and the idea was, well, the city staff look at what's the most reasonable and fair places to put them. 7 was allow temporary freestanding signs, such as sandwich board signs, so as long as the businesses maintain those 6 feet of width of room for pedestrian traffic in the administrative ordinance. Of course, the ordinance goes in much more detail. I'm just summarizing these. For 2020, allow construction projects that already have permits pulled prior to June 18th to temporarily block a street or sidewalk to complete said projects, and that's in the administrative ordinance. We did get, you saw in your packet, an email from someone who would like to paint or do some minor changes to a house that didn't require, or a building that didn't require a permit. So his question was, since I wasn't required to get a permit, where do I fit in this administrative ordinance? The 9th was to replace the hedges at the city beach with a 3-foot high white fence. Doesn't require an ordinance. 10th was temporarily allow an establishment to use a window at the establishment for picking up of food, drinks, and goods. So Yummies was an example that was brought up at the planning commission. Continue to allow the so-called pop-up businesses so long as they have the proper licensing. Number 12 was expand the downtown 3-hour parking limit to include both the north and south sides of East Main Street between Gardner and Judd. That was a mistake on my side. We don't have parking on the south side of Main Street between Gardner and Judd. No, it's just on the north side. Lucas pointed that one out to me. And 13 was to temporarily permit the outdoor display of goods in front of a business. And that was an administrative ordinance as well. So I sent you, I sent you a couple more emails from people related to the shade sales.
Now, the last 2 that you wrote, 11 and 12, do not specifically say temporarily.
Well, so right now, Jeff, if you correct me if I'm wrong, but those types of pop-up businesses, we don't disapprove them currently.
Correct. It was primarily, I believe, just how to address handling them. Our current policy is any business wishing to take part do business within the city of Harbor Springs, we require a merchant's license. And basically the decision at the planning commission was to continue to require that. So whether a business intends to be here for 5 years or 5 weeks, they would still be required to file that merchant's license announcing that they're going to do business.
I'm just trying to make sure. And then 12, expand downtown 3-hour parking, that's a permanent change.
Well, it could be, or it could be a temporary change. I know Kathy, you had made that request, and it was more so because of the current construction going on, plus a bunch of other things going on. It's kind of forced people to park there, or people are just parking there. So it could be temporary, but
I think we would like it
but they probably would like
going
it.
forward as well. We've had other violators.
Right.
So,
And
but
again, we get to choose when it's enforced and when it's not.
Yeah.
Calendar-wise.
Yep.
I just wanted to make sure what the intent of it is.
Yeah, I guess it could be either, or, yeah. I guess it's up for discussion. We can talk about if you guys want it to be temporary or permanent.
So we should probably go through these each one by one.
For sure.
You want to do the administrative ordinance, the ones that are in the ordinance, and tackle the ordinance as one, and then tackle the non-ordinance related ones. All right, so Mr. Raymer put together this ordinance. So there's, I think, 10 or 7 or 8 or so, but so the first one, section 2, the outdoor dining, seating, and sidewalk cafes expansion. So you see section 2 up there on the screen. Would you like me to read it out, or do you want me to in detail, or you guys just want to have a discussion about it?
This discussion is probably fine.
Yep.
We've all read them. Looked at it. Any comments, John or John?
I thought it all looked good.
Yeah, I agree. Temporarily, it makes sense.
Susie? Mike, you don't get the blow down that one.
Sure, okay, I like it.
Well, I think we vote on the ordinance as
Yeah.
one vote. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
You know what you're talking about.
Does that have a time frame on it?
So all these are a time frame. I believe Jim put November 1st, I think, as a time frame for this whole entire ordinance. All right, so that one, you can check that one off. Section 3, using the off-street parking requirements. So to allow an owner to use the off-street parking space for premises, so for the outdoor display of goods. So like Ivy wanted to use their private parking space, or the outfitter could use their private parking space for displaying goods.
So it's not necessarily on the streets, it's the ones that kind of are in behind, like Josh, the outfitter and some of those that got the off-street parking.
Yep.
Yeah, you own some parking.
Yep.
In town, you can set up a store there, yeah. Yep. Which I personally don't agree with. I think that makes, gonna make us look like Mackinac City.
I think it's risky, I tend to agree, because this allows people to do it, but there's no control over how they do it.
This is also till this November 1st.
But still,
So, because they only let 4 people in the store at a time, so it's hindering their sales. The smaller
I think
ones.
there's some risk, because there's no other control for the city. I mean, if it's noise, then we have a noise ordinance, but if it looks tacky, we don't have a tacky ordinance. I mean, basically.
Susie, opinion?
I'm okay with it.
You okay with it? Agrees with everyone. Okay, here, perfect. Next.
This is the one for, that in the CBD, the commercial business district, all uses must be conducted with the building shall be modified to permit an established duly license to sell foods, beverage, goods, and products, to sell those curbside in front of the establishment or at such centralized curbside pickup and delivery locations as approved by the city from time to time. I don't see it.
Good.
This one, section 5 allows freestanding sandwich board signs not exceeding 3 feet in height, 2 feet in width on the sidewalk. Other limitations are the sign doesn't interfere with pedestrian movement, which is kind of a common theme around a lot of these ones. And there's at least 6 feet of continuous, uninterrupted, and unimpeded width of sidewalk maintained in front of those establishments.
I'm good with it. You see the Toski showing like. Okay, Susie, Mike, I think it's bad. Only one I lose. Next.
Section 6 is for me to be able to issue permits to temporarily block a street or sidewalk during the summer season for those that have pulled out a building permit prior to June 18th, 2020, and had already started work on the construction or whose staff determines was unable to start construction. Again, this one was Russ Fogel, who said, well, he wasn't required to take out a building permit, and he contacted me first on June 4th. So someone like him also be able to be allowed.
Just painting.
There's painting, windows, there's like a windowsill replacement
Window sills and flower boxes.
and flower box.
Where is he doing it?
Simple improvements.
Hilda,
Oh, it held.
it's the hill, that's that corner building.
Quarter there. I know he manages the building. I do have issue with the temporarily block a street or sidewalk. Mossberg's job, they block that street all day. I mean, we gotta get after Mossberg and tell him to get his construction workers the hell out of there and not to block that street all day long. I mean,
Oh,
he's
with the
got
trucks
stuff-
pulling in and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, he's got trucks, he's got sky lifts, he's got all kinds of stuff going on. And so.
Well, it doesn't seem like they're working very hard on Main Street. So that really hasn't done much since the order lifted.
We didn't get any money until he finishes that house.
Well, they're not working, he's not working that aggressively on the house either.
Yeah. But, you know, I personally don't think, we should block any street, allow any blockage of the street for more than 15 minutes downtown in the summer.
So Jeff, don't we do have something that's,
We have.
so this temporarily, I think, is different. When we say temporarily here, we mean for a given period of time, like extended time. I think there's another section of our code that says something about how long you can actually block a street or,
So we have a section of the code, in the city code that talks about the blocking or temporary blocking of the street for deliveries.
Right.
And we do have some limitations for that. This is more specific to situations of long-term construction. For instance, at the Mossberg project, not necessarily with the parking spots that they're taking for the vehicles, but more with, they have completely blocked off the sidewalk on Main Street because of the work that's being done in their project. Another potential project that's going on is the Omar building right next door. They're working on the roof, and so they have some type of machinery there, the sidewalk, doing the work that they need to do. And we permit that activity outside of the summer days so that they can get that work done. But normally, between the days of, I believe it's June 15th and Labor Day, you can't block the sidewalk for those purposes. The trouble that we have is with all the delays from COVID, with everybody not being able to do work, those projects have sat with limited ability to move forward. So we have the choice. We can tell them, no, you can't block this. You have to clear the sidewalk, halt your project. But then that could delay the duration of that project for who knows how long.
I don't know. I've taken a lot of heat from a lot of people about this Mossberg project. People can't get up and down the street. They can't park. Omar's have a problem because their guys can't get into work because Mossberg's got the street blocked up. We have bent over backwards and given that man everything he wants, and he doesn't do anything for us. I mean, he's got to get his construction guys out of the central business district. And so I say no. I mean, make him get those barriers down, give us our sidewalk back, unless he plays ball with us. I mean, I'm tired of screwing around with him. He doesn't play it fair. Irish's people park other places.
Yeah.
Their construction workers are parked.
You can mention, I
I
agree with you. I mentioned to him that his guys can park down here
Yeah,
and shuttle. I mean, Jeff Ford, all the guys that work out on Harbor Point, they've all done it. They get a shuttle, they shuttle their guys. I mean, we have a parking issue. I don't agree with blocking off the road either.
I have a question. The language in this temporary change says sidewalks and street blockage. It doesn't address parking. There's a lot of parking gone with some of these projects.
well, that's what I say.
Is that
That's what I'm
park-
saying.
is that considered street?
I'm
Why does
sorry.
it not say parking, street, and sidewalk?
because the parking is on the street, so it's considered part of if you're talking about the parking that's on-street parking at the Mossberg project, yes.
Right now, we're probably losing 15, 20 spots downtown.
Easy.
The Mossberg's project.
They're all parked down in front of the.
Well, so the part on Main Street by Mossberg, that was supposed to be finished by the summer, I believe. It wasn't supposed to be finished, that they opened the sidewalk back up. But because of the COVID thing, they couldn't get that done. So the idea is now, do we let them do that construction so they can get it finished to open it back up? Or do we say, no, you can't do that this summer and keep it?
Well, I would
Dirt.
get a timeframe on it,
Yes.
because, the past month, nothing's happened there.
And he's
And that
just gonna
sidewalk-
tell you what you want to hear. He's not gonna do anything different.
Right, but it's backfilled now, so there's no safety issue. They're not running machinery, they're not
So
doing
why don't they
anything
just open up that sidewalk and let's move all the cars for parking down here and just be done with that?
Because
We do
we
that?
passed this ordinance that says that they can temporarily block a street or sidewalk during the summer season. Those guys will continue to block the street and block the sidewalk.
Let's modify it, let's change it.
What do we want to change it to? I say just get rid of it.
I'll second that.
To strike this section from the,
That would probably have to be included in the motion if we approve it overall.
Okay.
Yeah, we can make a motion at the end to approve the what's left,
Right.
excluding section 6, 8, whatever.
So they can continue doing construction, but they can't block streets and sidewalks. That's where we're going, right?
Yeah.
Temporarily for unloading, type thing.
Yeah.
Typical to whatever our ordinance already states.
yeah.
Okay.
So that's gonna probably pose a problem though, because then the sidewalk's not gonna be in. They still need that, they still need that place fenced off, construction.
Well, I think it would be
You know more about
appropriate
it
for us to have a meeting with.
Can he
Mr.
move that
Rosberg
fence in
about
and still
this.
continue?
Yes.
Then let's move that fence in.
Yeah, move that fence in, open it up.
We have to talk to the building about that.
I think it would be appropriate at this point then to try and schedule a meeting as soon as possible with Rob to discuss how we'll make it. I'm not trying to say.
No, I know, but
To meet with him and
Rob
say, hey, we need
is
to do
gonna
this.
double talk you on this and beg forgiveness and tell you he's
If-
never gonna do it again. And
if
he's
the
been doing
services
this
are in-
consistently for the last year.
Services should all be in before they backfill, so that sidewalk can be put in and, that can open back up.
It's very disruptive on that corner. I mean, you can't get through it because of his guys. Or because of his project. You know,
With the
block
movie theater
road,
opening back
block
up and
the
everything else,
sidewalk.
it's gonna even
People
get
don't
more
wanna
congested
do
down there.
it. Yeah.
Well, you're giving us clear guidance of what you want, so I think we can meet with Rob and say, we need to figure out how this is gonna, and make them do that.
I know, but you're not listening to me. Rob is gonna double talk you, beg forgiveness, and tell you it's not gonna happen again, and he's gonna continue to do it just like he has for the last year. That's my point.
So then what do we do about it?
Tell him no. Tell him to get his workers out of there, to get our sidewalk open. And let's
Give him a week.
You know?
That's the kind of guys I'm looking for. Do we give them a week? What do we?
Now, this section
Well, the
here.
4th of July is
A week
a
away.
week away, so,
About 2 weeks, 10 days.
So he's got to the last day of June,
Yeah. Until June 30th.
and then he's got to,
well, we can be like the point in, weekly. I mean, you got to the 1st.
Right.
he can still work, he just can't.
Still work, you just can't block everything off.
Yeah.
That opens it
Shuttle
up for
stuff
the
in,
summer.
they can, stage it all down here if they need to.
Weekly Harbor Point, they're all shut down the 30th.
Yeah.
Can I-
They can still take deliveries now.
Can I get Jim's opinion? Jim Raymer's opinion? Jim?
But before we go to Jim, is this intended to cover just the Mossberg project?
No.
No,
Others?
No,
it's for others as
There
well.
are other projects downtown that are,
what other projects?
Omarts are working on a project, on their roof, and this would affect them as well. And then we have
Mr. Ross Fogel.
Ross Vogel,
Yeah, but that's a small one.
that's a, yeah.
My only point is this was intended to help people who couldn't get their construction done to get it done. So whatever we decide to do should address the concerns about Mossberg, which I agree with, but should also enable other people to get done and to move forward.
Yeah, well, what's Omar have to, he's gonna block the sidewalk? He's not blocking the street.
I believe, yeah.
And why, I mean, how long is he gonna block the sidewalk for?
I talked with their builder before they started, and it sounded like more than a couple weeks, but less than several months. But he wasn't able,
Tell them to put a 6-foot scaffold up, plywood it, and have a corridor through the middle of it.
and we, like we did with the bank building, and their project.
Yeah.
And that way they
For
have,
years.
I had to do it on my project when I redid my brick work.
But last time-
I did it in Charlevoix week, last year.
Doesn't the state, doesn't the
Downtown.
county have to be involved with that, like they were with the?
well, yeah, the difficulty there was the bank, I mean, we had to do a little bit of stuff, I think, with the state because they redirected and created an ADA ramp and used some of the parking spaces for sidewalk. And then they had we can figure something out, but I think we need to be consistent too. If we're telling one builder one thing, it needs to be the same for everybody.
So should this change to empower the city manager to negotiate? Or to make sure that, yes, we want you to move forward, but you have to meet certain criteria that can be specific and time driven.
We need to make sidewalks passable. In order to do
And in
that,
the case of the
you set scaffold up, you build a shelter, people walk through it. I've done it for years, it's doable. I had stuff set up, scaffold set up on Main Street, Charlevoix, all that, like 2 summers ago, I guess, when we rebuilt the brick buildings. You can walk through them all the time.
Jim, do you have anything to say on this?
I totally understand what you're saying, and it's your call. I think if you want to eliminate section 6, we do that. If you wanted to give the city manager some discretion, based on need and safety, to authorize temporary blockage, you could do that too. I mean, the language of this is, it does say temporarily. It doesn't mean 24/7. So he already would have discretion within this section to inform Mr. Bloxberg that, yeah, you can block the street for 15 minutes a day, but your current practice of blocking it constantly is over. So it's your call.
All right.
Well, knowing Mossberg's project would say, he's gonna be swinging steel here before too long sometime for the second story. So they'll have to temporarily shut it down for safety reasons while they're setting steel, no big deal. But you can still open up the sidewalk. You can get the sidewalk into where that can be
Passable.
passable.
So if this gives you the authority to do that, then you can work on the specifics and not encumber the others and make it difficult for them. But that puts the onus on probably the people that should have it, which is the city manager, and you have to figure out what you can do, how to do it, and get it done.
It's gonna be an inconvenience, but that's what you do to work in downtown cities.
Okay.
Yeah,
Matt pointed out, he's had a lot of leeway for a long time.
yeah. I mean, we've changed streets for them.
Well, the fact that
Change
this
zoning
specific
for 'em,
construction, there's been
is that right?
long periods of idleness, even though he could work. So I would say that as long as you have the authority to do exactly that, then this can stand. With the understanding that that's what we want to do.
Right. Yeah, if it needs to be closed for actual work, you
So,
can have a temporary closure, but to have it closed all the time
Every
for
day.
his convenience, or for their convenience. Or they make it, in Obart's position, put up scaffolding and make a walkway. If they want to leave the stuff up for 2 weeks, whatever.
so are we rephrasing section 6 to say anything different? Because the way it's phrased right now, I don't think I could tell the Mossberg project that you have to stop doing what you're doing, or you have to get it done by July 1st. There's no, the way I read that is, he's allowed to do that as long as he's pulled out a building permit and has started work. It doesn't give me that flexibility.
Implying that it did give you that authority. If it doesn't, it should be reworded.
Well, that first bit, authorize the city manager to issue permits. So I think that right there, it feels to me like that says that he needs to submit a request. And that based on the nature of that request, Victor could approve or deny that request.
With specifics.
And I think that we would be within our bounds to work with that. And maybe Jim can answer if that is an appropriate interpretation of that or not.
Jim, did you hear that?
No, I could not hear that.
Just say okay.
Let's go up here,
Jim, it's Jeff here. So I'm looking at the first line in section 6 that says, authorize the city manager to issue a permit to temporarily block the street. So with that language, could we read that to say that the applicant that would like that permit or that permission would have to submit a request, and that we could analyze the nature of that request and how they intend on doing it for Victor then to approve or deny the request based on what they're asking for and including, and that it wouldn't necessarily need to be something where we're giving them carte blanche, that we could have some restrictions or guidance in how we approve it to do this.
I think that's true, Jeff. I would agree with that. I actually think this language gives him quite a bit of discretion. So, and even the authority that he does have is only to allow temporary blockages, not to allow 24/7 blockage. So the council's taking, I think, a relatively strict position on this, but granting a little bit of a safety valve there.
I'm good with that.
Yeah.
Are you okay with that?
Well, I'm good with that, except what if the decision I make isn't to the council's liking? Like so the criteria, what if they give me something? So what I hear from you is, a July 1st deadline, et cetera, et cetera. But what if I don't agree with that based on what they send me? And then you come back another meeting, well, we don't like the interpretation you made. So I guess the criteria seems like, yes, you give me this flexibility to do it, but it's not what I'm hearing what you guys want to do with Mossberg. Particularly, you just want Mossberg to be done by July 1st and stop blocking everything. But what if I don't come to that conclusion based on conversation? So that's where my concern is.
Right.
Good point.
Good point.
Well, I think, that being said, you talk with him and find a reasonable solution to open Main Street back up. Like within, say, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, tops. That's not gonna get us by the 4th of July, obviously, but I think that's being fair. It gives him a couple weeks to.
So I guess, yeah, I think that's fairest if that's what council wants me to do on this specific project, because I think that's where the issue is. It's not on all the other ones. We can approve this as is, but I know there's more concern about the Mossberg project. So if that's the guidance you want to give me separate to this administrative ordinance on Mossberg, then I'll do
Well,
that.
It'll go along the lines with the roofers next door.
Right.
I mean, it's kind of in general, but yeah, we're kind of talking about Rob in general, but.
Because Rob, from what I'm hearing from some of you is that the others, we don't know if they've, quote unquote, abused or taken advantage of the allowances we've given them. From what I'm hearing from the mayor and others is that we've given Rob a lot of flexibility and he's taken advantage of that. So that's where I see the difference is in applying it. So that's why I guess I wanted that guidance specifically for Mossberg's project, because you don't have that same concern about these other ones like the Omar building or not yet, exactly.
It gives you the discretion to make sure it doesn't happen.
If they can reasonably do their work without blocking the sidewalk, then they should not block the sidewalk. There are workarounds for this stuff. In Omar's position, they put scaffolding.
Or if they reopen the sidewalk and then they need to block it temporarily to do X or Y, now you're back into a normal cycle. But you're not shutting it down
Indefinitely.
indefinitely.
But there's no reason why they can't get the sidewalk back in.
Doesn't even have to be back in, it's still supply with
It really is.
Okay, I think I'm good with that.
Okay.
If not, by July 6th meeting, I'll hear differently from you guys.
It won't take that long.
All right, section 7. This is to permit an establishment to use a window in establishment's building to pick up foods, beverages, goods. Oh, sorry, this was the Yummies one. We already did that one, right?
No.
Oh, yeah. Yep, this is the walk-up windows. Yep,
And to our knowledge, Yummies is the only one that's requested.
yes.
So far, then Cornichons or Oshons.
There are some other businesses that are doing it and haven't really requested it. For instance, Yummies has converted their door entryway into a pickup window.
Tom's
Tom's Mom's, I'm sorry.
And houses.
Oh, and
Gurney's. Gurney's is on that too.
And Gurney.
Gurney's has set up a table outside that you can order from. So I think a lot of businesses have been doing it.
Katie has.
Right. Yummies is just, their project is a little more in-depth as far as how they want to do that. They want to install a window.
And is this a temporary, this is obviously.
This is all of these are temporary to November 1st. And if Yummies wants to come back for an overall site plan, they'd have to go through the regular site plan process for that, or get the zoning code changed if that's what they need
So
to
she would
do.
be taking window out, and adding a whole new window with a window in it though.
Yes.
Yes.
Correct.
So how do you temporarily do that and then change it back?
She can, close that window for the years it's not being used. And then it won't be,
Not open.
you just don't open the window if it gets denied on a permanent basis. But I don't suspect it. I mean, I think the planning commission was generally open to it in general, but I can't guarantee what they'll say, but
But the discussion was, as you described, come back if you want to make this a regular thing and
Right.
talk about what the implications are based on the code.
it was quicker to get it done this way than it was to go through the,
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
read quickly.
Well, I was thinking if she was getting ready to.
Yeah.
Redo her storefront, so to speak,
Yeah.
to make this all work out for her.
We just had a couple comments on here. Scott Reese, sorry, who will supervise the alcohol consumption in the food courts until what time of night? Can't make it too easy for underage drinking. I think at the planning commission meeting, Kyle said he wanted to put a time limit like at 11 p.m. On that. But it's a good question. Who's going to supervise it for underage drinking? That's a very good question. You know, do we just deal with it like we do normally with underage drinking? The police get a report or see someone?
I think our law enforcement
Handle
has
that.
big enough presence downtown that'll take care of itself.
Agreed.
And then from George Pete, we have a couple comments here, and this is regarding the Mossberg project. If this passes, this guy will have it going until Christmas. I agree with Matt regarding Mossberg.
Next.
All right, section 8. This provides limitations on the sale of products for off-premises consumption. So this is the liquor, subject to prior approval from the Michigan Liquor Control Commission. So this was the yacht club. Is that one? Jeff? Yeah. No, this is not that one.
No, not yet. Club.
No, sales.
Oh, this is a sales, yeah.
You want to carry on?
Section 9, prohibiting consumption of alcoholic beverages on public property. Again, this is what Scott Reese was talking about. Section 10, again, dealing with establishing that as a full line or specialty restaurant to sell and deliver food and beverages to patrons or customers within that area that we set aside as a food court or drinking court. This section 11 is the outdoor display of goods. This is not in your private parking spot. This is the one where it's in front of the building. We put in some stipulations here that it cannot extend beyond 3 feet from the front of the building line, that the area of displayed goods does not exceed 10 square feet. And also that there's still a 6-foot continuous, uninterrupted and unimpeded width of sidewalk. And so as you see, there's a few of these with the sandwich board sides, with outdoor dining, with display of goods. That's where you're going to see a little more clutter potentially for this summer. And not saying that's good or bad. It's going to be something different though than we have. So I think we've talked about the planning commission. As long as that 6 feet is there, they didn't seem to see a huge concern, but we won't know until we see what happens this summer.
Everywhere made some changes to his place there.
No, he put up the wall.
Is it a wall or a planter or something?
Yeah, he put a wall up with plastic flowers in it, and put a sign in the window that says, "Don't stand in front of my store."
This
Guy's a genius.
Waterfront?
This section 11 I think it's a good section. So there was a lot of discussion at the planning commission regarding outdoor display in a few different spaces. Earlier on in the conversation, one of the concerns that the planning commission brought up was making sure that we didn't do something that turned downtown Harbor Springs into kind of permanent sidewalk sales situation. But then later on in the conversation, when we talked specifically about outdoor display of goods, it didn't seem like they were very much against that idea. So what we tried to do, Jim Raymer and I talked about it on the phone, was create a method where we could permit an outdoor display of goods, but minimize the impact on the site. So we did that by limiting it in as far as keeping it up against the building and not out farther. Also limiting it in its total square footage of size so that it wouldn't feel like it was taking over too much of the street. So I think we tried to accommodate both the concern of, not creating a whole outdoor thing, but still permit them to do some of these activities.
I'd say 10 square feet is only what, probably the size of one of these tables.
3 by 3 roughly.
Yeah, I mean, this is good. This is a 5x2 table essentially. Yeah, 6x2. So yeah, it's not a huge space
Right.
But the transaction has to take place inside the store, correct?
unless they have a window that they're using for people to walk up to buy it. They can grab it there and put it.
There we go.
Anyways, there's ways, there's loopholes.
Those are.
Well, this section has some really good specifics in it, and who's going to validate that they're sticking to the 10 feet, and what happens when they're not up against the wall and then.
Kyle's gonna be real busy.
So,
Well, I think, we've got a number of things on here. A good example, one is I didn't think it was necessary to require a sign permit application for every outdoor sandwich board sign. My feeling, and I talked about this with Jim and Victor, was to just up my presence in monitoring the downtown situation, go down a couple times a week at least. One, to get an idea of what people are doing and how they're using this. Also to see if somebody throws up a huge sign that just isn't what we intended, I can talk to them. And also try and gauge what people are seeing in their behavior around these things. If the community likes them and we're getting good comments about it,
Right.
that I can monitor that as well. So then let's say that this time next year, if we're back in this situation and people are saying we would like to continue this beyond a season or a temporary thing and make it permanent, hopefully I'll have some good feedback and notes about how well it worked this year for next year.
No, I think we all want to help local businesses, and it's a tremendous learning opportunity. I mean, it's just kind of on a macro scale, it's an experiment. But we do want to gather the information and see how it's doing, and we want to avoid something that does embarrass us. Not that that would ever happen, but if it does, we want to know and we want to deal with it. Okay.
I just have one question. I guess we'll open this up to public comment if there's any after you guys discuss. But going back to that section 6 on the blockage of streets, we said leave it. No, because I'm thinking about the Ross Fogel situation. We said leave it as is, but that would mean he would be an automatic denial for being able to do the work at Hilda because it says you have to have a permit, have pulled out a building permit. I believe that's what it is stated.
Yeah, it does say permit.
Yep, it says right here, has a building permit and either of one of those two other things. So,
Well, even a building permit, but he doesn't need a permit to paint his building, or does he need a special permit from?
he doesn't need a permit, but this says you only can do this if you had a permit pulled out. So,
Because normally you can't do work in the downtown.
Oh, right. So no, technically that's legal. Labor.
if we approve that. So I'm fine with that if you guys are fine with that, but I just want to make sure that's clear.
City code shall be modified to authorize the city manager to issue permits. It's back in your court.
Well, so long as he has a building permit, though it already is specified, so long as he has a building permit.
What if,
For the first sentence too.
what if immediately after had a building permit, we put in parentheses if required?
Quick on your toes, I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that way you're not imposing another restriction.
Yeah.
That's good.
It's still in Victor's court.
Yes,
He'll be the bad guy.
I don't mind. I'll send Jeff to do it. No, but-
Yeah, because you probably have a machine, a lift machine to do that.
Yeah, but he'd still have to get those details to me then.
Right.
And so I could still deny him based on if
Correct.
the lift machine was blocking the sidewalk. So that would be the one amendment to this entire administrative ordinance that I've heard that we want to make is next to has a building permit, parentheses, if required. So see if there's any other comments on the YouTube. Nope.
Do we have any public comment on the phone? Don't even know we were meeting.
It was posted everywhere.
Oh, I see.
Top secret. Anyone in here?
All right, any other, we need to go through it one more time, we all happy?
I'm good.
I'm good.
Someone want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept the,
I'll
with
second.
that change to section 6. as presented.
Second that.
Bear with me.
He just turned 50, so things are, he's slowing down.
Oh,
Nice one. John Leo,
yes.
John Cups,
Yes.
CC Johnston,
Yes.
Matt O'Gara,
Yes.
and Mike Naturgis.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Great. So now we can go back to those other issues that didn't require an administrative ordinance. Not allowing public parking spaces to be used for outdoor dining. Planning Commission recommended no. If council wants to allow it, you can, but that's what Planning Commission recommendation was.
Agreed.
I would go with the recommendation.
I would go with the recommendation on that one.
I don't think we need to have a motion for that unless it's
No,
changing something.
Right.
Okay. The second one is do not close down streets to vehicular traffic in order to allow outdoor dining on those streets. Particularly, we looked at between Main Street and Bay Street, that section of State Street. And there was a good discussion about that. Ultimately, Planning Commission recommended no.
I was thinking about this the other day. Do it as a trial program during street music on Thursdays.
Down between the two, right there. Yeah. That'd be cool. You put a band down there, tables.
Put a band at the top.
That'd be cool.
So every Thursday for this summer, or just the first street music to try it?
Let's do every one.
I would do every one. I say, sample of one isn't very good, but a sample of, how many street musics are we?
Well, we have 8, but we'd already pulled the musicians in front of the New York because we felt that it would be difficult to do social distancing.
Right.
We've got our lineup done, so we would have to do some,
Reach back out.
we'd have to do some maneuvering. We're currently going to be at the waterfront, Johann's, Tom's Mom's, and Mary Ann Archer, roughly.
Tom's Mom's never really draws a whole lot of people back down in there.
Then we might move that one.
And I think that would be good, you know what I mean? Because we can make like a little area. I think that would be kind of cool.
I like the idea of an experiment. You're trying to draw people in for street music, why not?
There's people there. We could try the.
Would you like us to bring tables? Would you want the city to put tables there, or do you just want to keep it a pedestrian open walkway?
I would love the city to put tables there, but I'm not gonna ask for that.
I'll ask for that.
No.
I think it's a great idea. I think people will sit down, we'll have kids, we'll get them out of the corners.
Tell them to bring lawn chairs and sit.
Lawn chairs, could you, there you go. You can bring your own chairs, your own.
Well, what's the idea? Is the idea to make it just a larger pedestrian space, or do you want it to make a place where people hang out, sit down, listen to music?
So why don't we just recommend that they can bring their own little picnic table, their own little thing, their own chairs if they want, and they can sit down and they can eat and watch music.
So what street are you saying you're gonna block
Right in the
off?
middle of Main Street, right downtown.
He's messing.
Shush.
So State Street between Bay and Main, so where Pearson's,
Between Bay and Main.
so,
Between, to
So in other words,
By the
going
river.
downhill. You're not
Yes.
gonna block it up by
the right. Go down the hill and
Tom's
take a right.
Mom's.
no, just,
Because I was gonna say that would be terrible because of the parking lot.
Right.
no, we wouldn't block that.
No.
But in New
But I
York,
don't- I would go along with that on Thursdays, but I would not have the city provide tables.
At least not this year.
All right, CC, I'll go along with you, CC.
It's an experiment, I think we could learn a lot.
You don't have to be.
And knowing that it
Yeah, I do agree with that. It's a
allows
great idea.
everybody to plan.
Let's do it the other way. Let's have people bring their own chairs and
Maybe
stuff.
there's a better
See how it
return
works.
for the.
If people like it, then
Yeah,
I'll
if you just maneuver your,
I
Next
still
action.
think we should
put them there.
provide tables.
Make
can,
a suggestion, in other communities, the DDA provides tables,
That's more.
because it is in the DDA district and it's downtown.
One night a week, though, it's so much work.
That's true.
And I mean, it's after
I mean,
hours.
it's.
That's a lot of work.
If I want to buy
$5
space, just put them out there.
It's DDA down.
let's keep this conversation focused, sorry. A question there is, if you guys make a motion on that to allow it, I would probably like to make it subject to the police Chief Knight giving it a review to make sure he can do, look at circulation, and if he can't, we'll bring it back here. But I mean, I'm sure he'll be able to find a way to make it work. But I know he expressed some concerns last time just about that. So
That's why I say one night a week.
Yeah.
An inconvenience for people driving around.
Well, can we just try
But they could
it
go down
1
that
week
one-
to see how it works?
right, yeah, I just want to make sure that he has a
Put
plan.
sign there.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that Chief
People
has a
will be
plan.
fine.
It's a lot of work on our end if it's either all or not, because I have to change all the schedules, all the maps. That's all done already. So they have to redo at the moment.
Matt, why don't we just do all 8?
Yeah.
Let's just do all 8.
Oh, wait,
Fine,
yeah.
that
All
would be
8.
fun.
Let's do all 8.
That would help us a lot.
What time did I bring my picnic table as pedestrian?
You and your wagon.
You know, that's what I'm saying, it's like
invited,
July
yeah.
4th.
I thought you could bring your pop-up tent.
Tell me at 5 o'clock I could put a table.
You like
there.
Bliss Fest.
I'm bringing couch and chairs.
Jim, anything we need to think about before we do something crazy?
He's gone.
Are you asking me that,
I am.
Let's see. I guess, have you talked to the chief of police about traffic flow?
We're gonna do that.
And are you going to allow restaurants to serve in that area, to serve food?
I would say no.
Cheerio.
It's gonna help you.
You think no?
Yeah.
Well, it might be a good thing. But, so it would be, what about, as Mike was saying, bringing chairs in, sitting down, or do you want people to be moving?
I think you're gonna get people that are gonna be older, they're not gonna wanna stand there and eat food and drink. I think they would be better served by being able to bring chairs and sit like a parade.
Yeah, if they want to bring a chair,
They
they
wanna bring their own
can.
chair, they can bring their own stuff.
And the time is going to be from 6 to 8,
6:30 to 8:30.
6:30 to 8:30. So we probably have to close down a little early to get set up.
Cars out there.
Yeah. So we'd have to post signage for cars
Some
to,
emergency, people would get out of the way. I mean, there's enough ways around, but in the event of an absolute disaster, people would park ways. Yeah.
Is that 4 spots that are on the north side of the street that we would lose in? Or is it all, how far down do you wanna go? You wanna go to the alley?
You're gonna have to close.
State to Bay, the whole thing.
Okay.
Yeah. So you're talking about a total of, I think it was 16 spaces. on-
Yeah, it's-
Yeah.
It's a Thursday, it'll be fine.
And then
In the event of
Some
everything
fun.
gets done.
blocked it off with fencing or barricades,
EMS.
like they do for the farmer's market.
Let's make a statement.
All right, Mike Maturkis.
How about this as a
Bring a
motion?
fire truck down there.
I make a motion that we,
We do have some public comments, so
Oh, that lit it up.
Bob Thompson, I'm here. Thank you, Victor, for making meetings more accessible for interested citizens. Emily Dewey, I believe if what you are talking about pertains to your business, you should remove yourself from the discussion. George Pete, I think street closure is worth a try. Perhaps the hardest thing you may have to overcome is with other businesses feeling that it is inequitable. And Scott Reese, will it be an alcohol area? And I would probably say no to being an alcohol area.
Not yet.
No. As far as the other recusing, I think that would be a question maybe for Jim if he wants to weigh in on that. I don't think this is, because this doesn't pertain to a particular restaurant business, but you know, Jim, how do you feel about that?
What's the question?
The question was whether the rest,
The alcohol-free area, is that,
No.
if I should recuse myself
oh.
because I'm at a restaurant on the street.
Well, I think, I personally, I don't think it's a conflict to vote on this one. I just think it's too remote. I mean, just because you close the street in front of your business, that could be construed as being a negative because people might not be able to get there as easily. So I don't see it as being a conflict.
Good.
Perfect.
All right, so.
no more, I don't see.
Any comments on the phone? Public comment? That's right. All right, so I'll make a motion that for the 8 weeks of street music, we close Bay Street between State and Main.
State Street,
Between Main and Bay?
State Street between Main and Bay. Yeah.
Yeah, stay between day and day. Having no issues with the police department.
Subject to Chief Knight's review, yeah.
I'll second.
No alcohol service.
Yeah, no alcohol
no
service,
table service.
6:30 to 8:30. They can bring their own chairs. But we can just put that, that doesn't need to be in them.
Right faster than.
They keep coming. CC Johnston, John Leo,
Yes.
Matt McGarrett.
Yes.
Mike Materkus,
Yes.
John Cox.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. This reminds me that there's something that we did not put on this list that we did talk about at the Planning Commission meeting, which was Spring and Gardner Streets being the same direction. And the Planning Commission said that it was because of the was it the Mossberg project long time ago that we made, yep, for the Hotel Janelle. We made, was it Spring Street or was it Gardner Street? Gardner Street, we made that.
Flipping it turns the other
One
way.
way.
So the idea was to flip it the other way. And it seemed like Kyle was fine with that. So essentially, Spring Street would be going still north. The idea was to make Gardner Street come back south, right?
Correct.
Because,
No, it's headed north.
Because
You want to head north.
So,
It comes south now.
it comes south.
You want to flip it
both of
around.
us have.
there are no change to Spring Street.
Spring.
Spring is right,
It's one it's one that Mossberg's project's on. That one needs to be flipped.
so flip the one. Yep. Reverse direction.
I'm not changing that.
I think the concern that someone brought up at the meeting was that both of those streets are one-way going the same direction from north to south.
Right.
Is there three of them? Is there two or three streets that are all the same way?
Two. All the way around to the harbor.
Spring and Gardner.
So you have to go all the way down to Irish, or you have to go up.
With Gardner, between Bay and Main used to be two-way, right?
Yeah.
It's one way going south for the Hotel Janelle.
But that was a narrow street also, so there were two issues there.
Well, it's Spring Street's.
Yeah.
So the proposal is to reverse it and make it go north?
I think
Yeah.
if I remember correctly, yes, but it was also part and parcel with closing down, during the discussion of closing down State Street from Bay to Main for an extended period of time, since it's all summer. I don't know.
Yeah, for a 3-hour gig, it's probably not worth it.
So flip it.
That would.
Can we get a vote on that?
We're gonna change direction or skipping it?
I think, no, change it if that's
Change
what,
direction.
Please restate what,
that we will be changing the direction of traffic flow on Gardner Street, reversing the traffic flow. Instead of going, right now it's,
So instead of going to down the water, we'll flip the other way.
now is this for the entire summer?
this would be for an ever, until you guys vote to not.
But now there's two streets.
So it's going one way, back the other direction.
Yeah.
Right. Because everybody runs down the Irish.
For the longest time, I never knew one direction, I was going both ways anyway.
It might be legal.
I know,
You know.
I've been going down, then have to go all the way, yeah.
Well, I've been driving, it's been two-way.
Say, do we have to act on this one tonight?
We don't, I just, something that was brought up at the planning commission meeting. So we don't have to act on it tonight, but they talked about it.
Hold on this with Kyle's input on it. Really think about it.
Okay,
I mean, because it might not make any sense to reverse it, because it's not, doesn't help traffic flow really.
all right, so I'll come back to it July 6th with Kyle's opinion. All right, let's go on to the next one that's not an administrative ordinance. And that is the temporary Tencel structures or shade sails over the outdoor food court area. And there's actually two things there. One is, first of all, where do we want this outdoor food court area to be? Is it going to be at Marina Park or is it going to be at Zorn Park? Are we going to put shade at that park? And if we put shade, the one a couple council meetings ago was look at the shade sails. We had the Harbor Commission look at it, the DDA and the Planning Commission. Both the Harbor Commission and DDA had different reasons for not being for it. The Planning Commission liked the idea of shade sails or Tencel structures, but didn't want them to be cheap looking. So in our packet, Danny pulled together several different quotes for shade sails, and you got the cheap end for 6 sails, $1,800. a middle end $6,500, and then for the most expensive, talking about $45,000. So my thinking is, well, $45,000 for a temporary thing, no, it's a no-go. The cheap sales, which everyone seems to be against for the most part, they don't want to do them. And on the other side, Denny found out that they're on back order anyway for up to 8 weeks. So that leaves us with the
Switch.
middle or going to umbrellas. Because the option of trees were talked about, and we can't have canopy shade sized trees for the summer. It's just impossible. That'd be a longer term solution.
What's the average lifespan of one of these?
We'll get to public comments soon. So sorry. So these are the options you see for picnic tables, for umbrellas at the picnic tables. And then Denny, if you want to, you've had a few comments. You brought in some stuff.
Examples, like Victor said, nobody was really into cheap sales, and some of the committees didn't even like sales in general. I do think that whatever shade we provide is gonna help define that area, the outside dining. So I think we need to do something to help us, not only for the dining, to send people to that location, but also helps the safety officers to know where the open alcohol can be. So as far as the cheapest sales, and I think I had a picture of what the foundation might look for those cheap ones. It might be down, there it is right there. Okay, so the cheapest option includes that screw down there that will screw into the ground. And then connected to that would be a 4x4 post. And what I did, it's a 4x4, I just beveled it so it's more like in a diamond shape, because we didn't want it to look tacky, because that's one of our gems down there at Marina Park. But that's what it would look like, screwed in, attached to that. And then there would be some hardware for the sails. Now, that's the hardware right there. Now, if you didn't like the way it looked, and somebody mentioned it could be like an earth tone color. Some people don't like the post, or maybe you want the post to look even larger. We could easily just take a piece of PVC. We could prime it and paint it. So if you think you want the post to look a little bit more beefy, we could just easily just slide this right over the top of it. If we move up to the next level.
So explain to me
Yes.
the, I don't necessarily call it cheap, but the less expensive versus the one in the middle.
Okay.
What's the
Well,
difference?
there is a difference. And the one in the middle,
Fabric?
the biggest difference is the fabric. And I've got samples of what the fabric would look like in option number 2. And this is a local vendor that Irish gets their sales. Those are the colors that comes in. And these are actually sails. Now the shade sails aren't necessarily used for sailboat, but these are. And this is the next step up. And that's the thickness of it. The difference also with the next size up is instead of using those screw-in anchors, we use sonic tubes. A little more invasive.
Well, why can't we use the screw-in anchors?
Well, we can. A lot of our feedback we've been getting is, one is it looks cheap, and 2 is about safety. I thought that, but after we decided that we were going to go forward, we might want to run this through our engineer that we have on to make sure that we've covered all of our bases. So the second option would include sonic tubes, which, we'd have to drill in.
But that kind of takes away from our temporary thinking.
It can still be pulled up, but it's less temporary, but it could be more sturdy and safe. Yeah, it could be pulled out. It's just, it'll come out pretty easy. It's not like we're putting any kind of foundation on the bottom.
You put one of the helicals on the ground, that ain't coming out of the ground very easy either.
No, let me pull it out without a truck.
Hey, John, can that be made where that's actually on the ground though, but they can actually screw the post in and then remove the post all together, and you'd still have the helicals in there?
But the helical, you're still gonna have an anchor on that, regardless. You're still gonna have that anchor sit at the top of it.
Right, but I'm saying it can be built so that's like below, and they can put a cap on it, and then if they need to, we can put it up. So if we wanted to pull it out, and we can. Do you know what I'm saying or no?
Yeah, recess, something very.
Exactly.
Yeah, you could recess.
And then that way you put it, and then you just cap them. So if we need the park and we're gonna do something, we can actually take them all down do the park, put the caps in and put them back up after.
Do that with the helical.
But those
And-
are only temporary,
Right.
aren't
But
they?
I don't think, but I don't think this is gonna be, this is my own opinion. I don't think it's gonna be temporary. I think if we do 2 or 3 of these things down in that park, they are gonna get used every summer.
I wanna ask, what was
Oh,
the,
no.
Well, this is, that's why we're going to Zorn now.
why the other two boards don't want them or like them? What was their?
So the Harbor Commission, for example, they were concerned about the noise that the shade sails would make for the boaters that are sleeping, that with the, I guess it was the hooks. That
Yeah.
were,
They make a noise that sounds like sailboats in a
Well-
harbor.
Well, I can speak on that, haven't been a harbor master. You're right. It's the connection
clanking
and
noise.
the mast that makes the sound. If you're using wood, you're not gonna get that clinging noise, even though that's common for a marina. But you may get some flapping. You know, that's just the reality of
I
it.
know it's because we used to have those.
Say, have you ever listened to the sailboats down there?
Yeah.
Bang.
The clanking
All night
noise?
long.
that was one of their reasons.
And
Until I
I
had
think-
sound, they were saying that
The
sound
DDA, the
a lot
DDA had their,
different Than you have a sail out there, so they were saying that people that have been in the marinas with these, that flapping, you don't have a sail up when you're on a sailboat. You have a little bit of mast that you do this, but
It's a
they
rope.
showed that windstorm they went through. And then one of the people at the, also has one in his backyard, and during that windstorm, it almost ripped it out of the ground. So they were concerned that the safety of that coming back out. He said his little post at his house is now a hole this big, and he's started doing this. That could have been installation too, I don't know, but those are the biggest things.
And that could happen with the screw ins. I don't think it's gonna happen with
That's not gonna
this.
happen with that.
Right, so.
so, and then the DDA had their own reasons. I don't know, Margot, if you want to share some of the DDAs.
I think the DDA's biggest concern was, originally from the picture, it looked like we were going with a more high-end option. And then when it came down to, we were gonna possibly go with that lowest option or a lower option, that's really when the DDA board, had a problem with the.
I don't think people were really jiving on it being down by the river waterfront. I think more people were probably wanting it over by,
Zorn.
right.
The Zorn
by
Park.
beach. I think it'd be right there, moms can take their kids up there.
I think that
It's awesome.
the issue putting it at Zorn is the bathroom facilities. You know, we just, the little bathroom down at the beach can't handle that influx of more people at a dining. The marina bathroom may be better able to handle that. And that's just, we have a need in our community, in our park system, to have a bigger bathroom. We all know that. We're hoping to do that with the marina building. But we have to think about that. I think, and we might get less people to go to Zorn Park than we would if it was at Marina. And that's where I was getting the PVC. If you wanted that kind of a look, if we did get the PVC, you prime it, you paint it, it kind of gives a little bit of a structure if that's what you're looking for.
PVC scratches when you paint it.
Okay,
It just,
I think I
Prime
like
it,
the
paint
wood
it.
option. I think less is more, actually. I mean,
You like the wood
yeah,
option?
the earth
the
tone.
less structure you have up there, the nicer it's
Okay.
gonna look, for
And
sure.
Bevel, that was really smart. Bevel like that, it doesn't look like a plain old.
Doesn't look like a
You
4x4.
want a sharp edge.
It looks good.
It looks good.
So you guys want to pick the color?
I do. I'm
Lime
in.
green and then pink,
Oh, John.
just to agitate.
So just, again, keeping, this would go wherever we locate the food court, alcohol serving court. And
Creating an atmosphere.
Right.
Right.
Something related to that, though, that we also want to, and this is indirectly, we could talk about it afterwards, but is the fencing for that area and what kind of fencing we're going to want to have put up for that. So just keep in mind, this is all going to look together because we need to have that area cordoned off.
And the picnic tables that we're gonna put under are green, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Right out there.
Then-
Susie, right outside the door. Sit close.
I did buy a mid-grade umbrella. It's right out there in case you wanted to look at that, if that's the option we wanted to go. It's not an El Cheapo one, it's not a high commercial one, it's about mid-grade.
About $150?
Yeah, about
Yeah, I just bought
175.
4 of them, put them in front of State Road, and I lost 3 of them in a week.
I
Okay.
was
broke.
gonna say,
They just
the
win.
wind is not
It
good.
just, it's not, it's, they lost them all.
Bad umbrellas are tough.
No.
All right, so eliminate that.
Any other questions for me? You like the post? Would you go with the sonic tube or the screw in?
If we can, like, settle down to where we can, if we ever wanted to,
We want to set them down just so they're easy also to mow over when we're not using the sails.
well, that's what I'm saying, so we recess them like 8 inches or something like that, that way that pillar, if we remove it, just cap it.
Yeah, you don't have to pull kind of, you have.
Right. Just a little cap it.
More off.
Yeah, put like a,
Irrigation.
irrigation box over top of it.
Right.
But that would mean that on the cement, you'd have to put one of those connections there,
You have
right?
to do that anyway.
Right.
We do that right in the middle of the street with
You
Christmas
should
tree.
have the same thing as the top of that vehicle, that's what I'm saying, if you recess that down to the ground, still anchor it.
Yep.
But you can put an irrigation box over top of it when we're not using it.
Yeah.
And we'll just mow over top of it, then we won't put it back up, go about it.
Any color schemes for the sails and the post?
Earth tone.
Earth tone?
John wants pink.
They are getting, people are buying them up. I don't know if they're buying them because we're looking at the cheaper model, right?
Well, I thought
Is
we
that-
looked at the
Well,
middle,
I think the mid.
the mid.
The mid?
Consensus is the mid-range.
Okay.
If we want it to be a valid experiment to see how it looks and how it's gonna last, you don't go with the cheap option.
But if it's temporary, I mean, what was the price again on the middle?
It's up there, so the price,
64.94 CC.
so that's an estimate, yep, for installation and the sails themselves.
Okay.
You're looking at $190, I'm sorry, you're looking at
But it's
$660.
still temporary.
Right, so
That's
that's,
a lot to spend for something
For the
that's
summer.
temporary.
Well, it's temporary for the summer, but then again, next summer, we're probably gonna put it back again. as
Well,
try
we
to-
don't know that.
Oh, I know.
So I would
On the cheap
suggest
ones,
we
I don't
go with
know.
the cheaper one.
The mid.
And if we decide that we're going to continue to do it, then we can invest more money.
Problem with the
That's
cheaper
my
one,
opinion.
CC, is
We're gonna tear apart.
it's not gonna get here.
Pardon?
Problem with the less expensive one is that it's not going to get here.
they're 8 weeks out.
Oh, that's right.
I agree with you, but the problem is it's not available.
Right, I forgot about that.
Yeah, I guess, throw a little gas on the fire, who's gonna pay for it?
That's why we went cheap. I mean, and I could still continue to look for cheaper sales if that's
Is
what
this
you
for
want.
6 units? Is this for
Come out
6
of your
units
budget?
though, to do 6 of them? Or 3?
It's
6 sails,
6 sales, 6 20 by 20 sales. So the whole structure will be 60 by 20.
Per one? Per each one?
no, total.
Total, okay.
Total dining, so we had that, I
I got you.
don't know if we still have I had
Still have
that
picture.
location. Yeah. This would just be at the Zorn. So I guess the question is a motion on, location,
We didn't
Type.
talk about having it down at the waterfront.
yeah, what location we're gonna have it at.
The residents down there are not fine
So-
with that, just so you guys know.
No, they have the comments, yeah. They got
No
that.
residents at the waterfront. Who lives there?
I don't know the address of every person downtown.
No, but there's
Who
nobody.
lives downtown? I mean, who lives
Are
at the
there
waterfront?
condos up above? I mean, if you got the comments, then it's.
I emailed you the comments from Slotnick as well as Susan Clark.
Is that from,
Doesn't live downtown, Clark doesn't live downtown. So, unless we get a lot of comments from people who live downtown.
Okay.
Anyone
How high in
downtown
the air
or
will
above?
this be?
They'll be 10 foot.
No, it's not.
setback?
There were a couple comments, people in attendance at the planning commission meeting, that were in attendance, but the planning commission heard them and still voted this option.
Mhm.
Is it worth going half the size, like a 20 by 30?
We can get 2 tables under a 20 by 20. So if we go smaller, in order to stay with the social distancing,
Oh, yeah.
we might have less tables.
Go big or go home on that. I think we should do it anyway.
Yeah, I mean, we can always use them someplace else. I mean, if this is a dismal failure, we can put them at Kiwanis Park. Down here, put them up for the deer. I don't know.
I'm in favor of that, I'm just not, I forgot about the social distancing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why we need that.
I guess I'll bring it up one more time. Who's gonna be?
So general
Nick?
fund
What if we don't put anything?
or no shade?
Just have the tables there and they can use them.
No one's gonna use them when it's 80 degrees out. Blistering, you know.
Blast in the man.
Not really.
That are out there now.
I know who's not going to pay for them. I mean,
I
with the tight budget, the DDA.
know.
Like your shirt.
Oh, my, she has one too. I just noticed that.
All right, stay on point.
I would make a motion
Well,
that we use that down by the waterfront, down by the waterfront, building in that corner, of the location A,
It was, no,
it's
no,
not. No.
I think-
Wrong part.
I think we've left the waterfront, the marina, green space.
Right now.
Yeah, now we're going toward Zorn Park.
Right up top where they do the
Is
car
it right
shows.
here or right here?
So there's
North
nothing
of Bay or
blocked.
south
They're
of
not in
Bay?
the way of anybody. It's a church right there. You see what I'm saying? So it doesn't really,
We're not at the waterfront.
no.
Yeah, but there's plenty of shade at Zorn Park.
Right there.
Right there or right here?
Plenty of shade, you don't need any.
Or right here?
Right there.
To Zorn Park.
Right.
And you don't feel that the bathrooms are gonna be, I mean, because restaurants are gonna let less people in to use their bathrooms.
People walk to the bathrooms all the time from all over the place.
More business for them,
Ooh,
for the restaurants.
Yeah.
Trying to move people to eat downtown.
they're not.
Believe me,
Denny.
in 30 years, I've tried to keep people who aren't customers out of my bathrooms, and they spit in your face, they swear at you, it's not worth it. You just let them use the bathroom.
Okay, I know, but with the COVID, that's kind of a game changer. Okay.
The people who go out to restaurants don't care about COVID. They all have a death wish.
So I guess,
That's actually a true statement.
I mean, you
You
know,
speak pretty intelligently about that.
And I did check into the underground infrastructure there, which if that's the location you want to go, I'll have to do that.
Well, no, and CC made a great point. We don't need sales at Zorn Park because there's
Shade.
plenty of trees there.
Right. Put them there.
So back to my motion.
Yeah, okay. Fair enough, Jeff.
I thought that it was at location A, there were 3 options.
one A was right here, yep.
Yeah, so I would make a motion that we go with the middle of the road, $7,000 all in option in that location as an experiment this summer, given what John has suggested, or several suggested about it being recessed. So that when they come out, they have to come out, or when we're done for the season, we cap them and we store them and we move on to the next year. I'm not gonna include a color selection because I don't do colors. But not pink and not lime green.
We do have a couple public comments up there. George Pete, I have led projects to build and install these. Even the most expensive option is very temporary. To do this properly, you want to commission an artist and an engineer. The legit ones of these are as much art installations as they are shade and weather barriers.
It's a good comment, and that might be the conclusion from our experiments.
Right.
But if we want to engage with an engineer and an artist, it's not gonna happen. So
You got your checkbook with you?
I do not.
Hey, Matt. When we discussed this in
I think
planning
it's
commission,
worthwhile
did we
that the
discuss it
city
being
might-
over in here, not in here? That most people
Particularly if
were
we're
not
talking about
jazzed
longer
about
term, it being something to be used at other parts.
Well, I think next year we might talk about it being long-term, but this year we're just talking about doing a one-time deal for the summer. And I don't know. We're spending money like we got it. Everything. I mean, we got this tree grate thing where we gave them $100,000, $106,000, and they spun it into $260,000. And so now we're gonna spend another $6,000, $7,000, which is peanuts. I know it's small potatoes for the city, on something that may or may not work, where we can just move it to the other park. People can sit under the trees. It's actually a better setting because at Marina Park, all you can do is look at the boats. You know, it's a temporary deal. It's a short season up here. You know, next week, it's 8 weeks long. Why spend, that's $1,000 a week for something that may or may not work. And there's not a lot of traction for it to be down at the harbor master's office. So that's my opinion. So anyways, you got your motion. Someone wants to second it?
We can have discussion.
Discussion about it is out.
Okay.
We haven't spent the money on the tree.
No.
It's still in discussion.
It is
That
still
is
in
not,
discussion.
that is not a short-term urgent. Again, in my mind, we're trying to help businesses in a COVID environment to get out there and experiment with something for the Parks and Rec area. there's no need to get the grades done right now. I think there's still significant discussion that can and should be had on that topic. So I'm not trying to be irresponsible with the proposal to spend this money. I thought through it. I think it's a worthwhile investment, and I did label it as an experiment. So I think we should do it.
So Nick, would the funds be coming from general fund, not the waterfront? I think that's another thing Harbor Commission said was they request that this money does not come from the harbor front. So that
We're still
waterfront funds.
discussing where it's gonna actually happen. So you want, John, you're saying you want.
My motion is to have it down in the
Park.
marina.
Yep.
And right there by that,
Location A.
Okay,
Down where, again, the rationale originally was that's where the current proposal for the new harbor master building would be.
And also, sir, there's already some obstacles there. There's a 7-foot high hedge, and then there's the conductors. And also, we would have electricity at that location if we so wanted.
which by putting at that location would mean that's where we're going to have the food court. I'm assuming.
unless you move it again,
Which
which is why I'm,
To me, the food court would make more sense there than Zorn, but because it's in the middle of everything. And everybody walks down with their ice cream and lunch anyway now. They're honestly, they're both good options. I don't think we can go wrong either way.
sorry.
Right. But we got a motion.
is there a second?
Or a third.
I agree with John, I'm not agreeing with him in the spot. Like, I think we should do it, I just don't think it should be there. I think it should be over there.
You think it should be up
I
here?
just think we're gonna do more events there, I think they're gonna get in the way, and I think it's gonna be a problem, you know what I mean? I think we're gonna build that, eventually we're gonna build the new building, we're gonna have to move it, then we gotta do it again.
Well, again,
You know,
We're discussing this year, not next year.
but I'm looking long-term, because we spend, like Matt said, we spend money, it's crazy, it's like, let's just do it, and get it done right, do it once.
but this isn't a long-term installation. It's by
I
definition.
want it to be a long-term, like, I'm on board for it to be a long-term thing.
It's not-
We gotta spend 45 grand.
How does that make you feel?
Just taking it all in.
I'm just taking it all in. Well, if there's no second, then how do we just move on with life?
I would like to make a motion that we have it at Zorn Park, put the tables there and have them close to the trees, and
As a
that's where we
sales up
have.
and everything else?
So
Is that what
we,
you're saying?
so
Are you
actually
saying
now
it's
I've
all
got,
sales and everything, but it's a motion.
No sales.
Right.
No sales.
Right. Margot wants to say something. Let
I
Margot
just wanted to make the point on the tables that the DDA raised funds for, the 7 tables, that those do need to stay in Marina Park because Zorn Park is outside of the CBD, and those tables were raised with the intention to stay in the downtown district.
Talk. The donated things?
The donated tables, not the 5 tables that we bought, we could put there. But the 7 tables that were donated have to stay in the CBD.
I don't want to donate.
They do.
Good tables.
I want my table back.
In the downtown district.
We'll sell it to you for double.
Excuse me, say,
For $1.
state that again.
So the tables that were donated were meant for the downtown district, so the waterfront park, for example, Marina Park. I think that's what we told.
Right.
The donors.
Yeah.
The technicality would be that Zorn Park is not within the DDA.
Right. So, but we still purchased 5 tables, the city could put those 5 purchased tables at Zorn Park. So we still have
There's
tables
plenty
there.
of
There's plenty of tables to put there.
Tables.
So it's just earmarking those ones with the donors' names on them to stay at the water.
And how many tables was that? 6?
7 were donated? 7.
But wasn't it the plan that wherever we put the sales is where we're gonna try to do the outdoor dining,
Correct.
right? Well, we all agreed that we don't wanna do outdoor dining down at Marina Park, right?
I don't believe that's the case.
Whenever we have a major event, we have it down at the marina.
then it gets in the way, right, and so our major event now is in the way of all our outdoor dining.
There are
so
no
it's for the-
major events planned
No,
this
there's no
year.
major
But
event.
next year there will be. I'm thinking beyond until, 2 months, 8 weeks from now. I'm thinking
of
ahead.
sales
Hmm?
as part of the event. Couldn't we?
Hmm?
I don't
It
see
could be
why
the
not.
entryway.
Could be.
Could be.
Could be. What are we gonna do when we
Make
move the
main
building?
side of it.
That's the one question is when
What are we
we,
gonna do when we move the building?
if and when we
Then
move
what?
the building.
And if people like it,
Going.
then are we gonna move them over there?
When is the new building scheduled for construction?
No,
Sometime
no,
then.
no schedule date.
Sometime then, John.
Come on.
When you're the mayor.
Where's it going? I mean, I don't even know, so.
It's going right there.
It goes right there.
It's going right here, yeah.
Proposed to go- it actually wraps around.
I've never seen the plans. so I
Yeah,
don't
it
know.
actually wraps around that area where the sales are.
New mic there, that could be the new building,
What?
just where the sales are, new mic there.
Yeah, just put them there in a chair.
Exactly.
So procedurally, when the.
I've already got my office parked right there, right in front of Michael's
What-
office.
We gotta move.
What if we move
Yeah,
the
we gotta-
sales farther west towards the pier?
The people will go crazy about blocking the view of the boats.
Yeah.
Because they think there's water there. There's gonna be just-
Well, but you already got the hedge from the transformer, you got the chamber building. And you got 2/3 of that's already blocked by trees.
No,
You see what I'm saying? If we moved it a little more, then that still leaves everything open
right,
through there.
right.
And if the building does go, they're still far enough down, maybe we can leave them or not leave them.
That's right. It's just a 1-year deal.
It's a. Well, I guess what I'm getting at is,
Right.
I wanna see the sales, I wanna try.
Mm-hmm.
But let's shift it farther in the park down. And even if the community band wants to play down there, they can play underneath them. Or next to them.
Right.
But I still like.
Are you
the
saying
idea of
going
Zorn
west?
Park, let's put some tables in Zorn Park and utilize Zorn as well.
So John, are you saying going west with them more, or are you saying going
Yeah.
north with them more?
West. Slide it all the
West,
way
right
down.
here, see where my arrow
In
is?
that area there, it's already blocked by all the trees.
Yeah, no, that's true.
So nobody can complain about the view because you already can't see from it anyway.
No, people.
Well, there's view and there was noise. Those were the two concerns.
And it's closest to the sidewalk. It's, I mean, if they're walking down this way,
Yeah.
right here.
And we looked at that area too, we just didn't think it was that noticeable if we were trying to create an outside dining.
By the
Just
future,
throwing that up.
but thinking about the plan, which I've never seen, but from what they're saying, if the new building's gonna go here where this transfer is, or, all that area there, we still get a
I
feel,
can pull
we
up
get a sense
that
of what the
plan.
sales are gonna be like. The food court's still downtown, but I still like the idea of having benches over in Zorn.
Well, it doesn't show the gazebo either, because there is a gazebo.
Yeah, it's right next to that hedge.
Hmm.
The gazebo's right next to that hedge. That's right there.
There's also a drop down there where the tennis courts used to be.
Yeah,
The best access is, like Victor said, would be through the sidewalk.
yeah, it's about
I have to
a
make sure I can fit it in there. but-
18, 20-inch swale there probably. But I don't know if that's such a bad deal to have a lower and upper.
Now, that was not one of the locations presented previously.
No,
That's correct, it was
Now,
not.
no one else has had an opinion on that, not that that's necessary.
so I'm just pulling up the schematics for the new building to see the location. So you guys can see where it's gonna be. So the new building's right here. This green space would technically remain, and this would turn into green space right this part of the parking lot. So there would be a sidewalk that goes down this way completely from here. So this is just, of course, this is temporary. We haven't, but this is what temporary
Again,
plan is.
temporarily putting it over there, it's out of the way of everything.
Well, we aren't gonna get. The harbor master just said, "Hey, they built it."
Well, I realize that, but even in
9
this
years,
future
yeah.
dream, which has been talked about now for what, 5, 6 years or longer.
Almost 8 years.
So, but still putting it down there, it's a nice try.
Right.
We're still kind of getting the best.
May I amend my?
Please.
Yeah, make the
Can I
motion.
move forward, can I amend?
Yeah.
So that would be location Z or whatever.
Z-Bob.
D,
D.
we'll label location D.
D.
I'll second that.
Location D to be determined if it's even a doable
Yeah.
spot.
Mayor,
And I'll second that one.
Mayor, Margot would like to say something.
I'm sorry. I know that when we met down there, Denny, myself, Mike, and Lucas. I know one of the reasons we didn't go that space was because of the community band, and people use that for various things. That in the future, if there was a tent, like for the Taste of Harbor, it might impede into that space. And then there was another reason, I think that Mike had, and I cannot remember it right now, why he wanted it over that other direction.
Mike Johnson?
Yeah, so I'm not sure, but I mean, I know the bigger issue was, with the big Taste of Harbor tent being where it's usually placed, that I don't know.
So they gotta shift it a little more. I've set the tent up for festivals down there for the last 6-7 years.
But there is no festival this year.
No.
This is a 1-year window that we're talking about. With the removable installation, so I mean, it could go either place. That was my point, that others haven't reviewed, and well, I guess you did, when you went down there scouting for locations.
So, but it's not impossible,
No.
okay, so it's doable, and it's practical, there's no, structural or any kind of.
I'm amending the motion because it sounds like there's an interest in trying this, an objection to that location, so if that's what it takes, then.
Mayor, we have another,
All right, I have a motion and a second.
Mayor, we have another comment.
No, we haven't, guys. All right.
No, you're fine. So how much would it cost to just have the base and put those poles in? So you want to do a trial run, so why don't you try at each location to see which gives the best results?
I don't think we want to have like an open alcohol in so many different places, creating our dining
Food.
to manage that.
Yeah, but let's say it doesn't work out, right, and it's a flop, instead of, 6,400, whatever.
Oh, no,
it
we
is,
reuse
it's
it.
just base that just gets covered
Yeah,
up.
we would repurpose it for sure.
You'll
If it
have
doesn't work,
you'll have less than $100 into a base.
Can I just get your name and address?
107
I didn't
Chris.
get that.
Chris Rice.
It's 178.
Yeah, Rice, just like a food, and it's gonna be 444 East Lake Street.
Thank you.
We have a motion and a second.
I have a motion by John Leo, second by Mike Naturkis to place the sales at location D, which is closer to the pier at Waterfront Park temporarily for the summer. And I have a second by Mike Naturkis, and I will do a roll call. C.C. Johnston,
no.
Okay.
John Copps,
Yes.
John Leo,
Yes.
Mike Naturkis,
Yes.
Matt Bugera.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay,
But to add to that, I do like CC's idea of putting tables in Zorn
Down the
Park.
other one, yeah, for sure.
yeah,
That's great.
Yes.
Danny's gonna put tables down there
You know,
anyway, yep.
shade,
Yes.
I mean, or to see, at least to see how it gets used.
Sure.
I like their idea.
So the question that we'll have to work on is the type of fencing we're gonna wanna use for this outdoor food court, and that's another question. It's gonna add cost, because we don't wanna put that orange fencing that we
Snow
use for
fence.
snow fencing.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't wanna use that,
Why do we have to have a?
because it'd be closed off for the alcohol, right?
You don't have to do that.
You don't have to close
do
it
that
off?
anymore.
That's what I was wondering, why would I buy it?
No, it only has to be a border of any sort. The border could be a chalk line
No,
or a rope through a little thing. The
For
grass area.
you to serve alcohol,
Mhm.
you have to have a border. But to have alcohol service
To go.
to go in town,
You don't need a border.
we don't need a border.
No, I think we
Because
talked about
we
that
amended the
earlier.
No, I think
ordinance
you're right about
about
that. I think you're right.
drinking.
I don't think you do. To serve it, to sell it there, you do, but
Yeah.
to go there and consume it, you don't. He's right. I'm thinking about
Is
it.
that the new, that was
No,
passed
that's
in the
not new.
house?
That's always
Oh.
been that way.
Yeah,
So they can consume it at any of our parks.
That's right.
Correct.
yeah, the way the ordinance.
If we let them do it, then they can consume it anywhere. You just
Well,
can't
it's
drink
like
walking down the
ordinance is more
sidewalk.
Specific, it's in a zone.
Yep.
Well, I'm sorry, I thought it was gonna be contained under what we created as an outdoor
Well,
dining.
it could be, but how do you contain them?
Yeah.
Yellow danger tape,
Well, that grassy area at Marina Park is pretty well bordered by concrete, so anywhere in the grassy area at Marina Front Park is our food court with alcohol allowed.
And it's always kind of been that way. I mean, since it was developed that way.
and there's that say we can't get some pots of geraniums and call that our border. So 4 pots of geraniums.
Okay, so you wanna move on to next?
Yeah,
All right. We are moving on to, which one are we at now? We are at distributing curbside parking spaces evenly throughout the CBD. We can just have Kyle work
Kyle,
on.
pick that.
Yeah, we'll have Kyle work on that one. Replace the hedges at City Beach with a 3-foot high white fence. That's not something that necessarily needs council approval, but we went through the whole process.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, just want to make sure, at least there's consensus. Continuing to allow the pop-up businesses so long they have the proper licensing. I think we kind of talked about that. And then expand the downtown 3-hour parking limit to include the north side, not the south side, because there is no south side of East Main Street between Gardner and Judd.
To make it 3 hours.
To make it a 3-hour parking.
Sure.
Yep. And the question then there is it temporary or is it permanent? You want to do this just for the summer, or do you want to do it 3 hours for the entire, forever?
Let's try it for the summer and we can revisit it.
Can we get a motion on that one? We'll have a vote on that
All
one.
right. I'll make a motion that we expand the 3-hour parking limit to the north side of East Main between Gardner and Judd till November 1st.
I'll second that.
John Leo,
Yes.
John Cox,
Yes.
Matt McGarrett,
Yes.
CC Johnston,
Yes.
Mike Naturkus.
Yes.
Motion carried.
He heard.
I think that's all we had for that. So for item A.
All right.
So. Mayor, can I now say that me and CC have the same shirt as we were talking about earlier?
Almost, yeah.
All three of you. Next
As a-
time, call me.
as-
I'll make sure.
Little break.
Somebody out of Pearson's, I'll grab it.
All right, B is the downtown tree-based discussion. So this is, came on agenda because at the last council meeting, council had, the motion was to proceed with a bid for just the tree grates and the tree replacement of the trees. So we took out the electric, the bricks, as well as replacing the whole sidewalk. So Margot went and talked with Benchmark, and there was the opportunity from Benchmark to save us potential costs. The idea of creating at least short-term costs in the short term, a phased approach to doing this project, phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. Phase 1 would be downtown between State Street and Spring Street, doing the sidewalks and grates on that part, and electric, everything. Then phase 2 between Spring and Gardner. Phase 3 would be the parts west of Judd. So the idea here was not necessarily to come here to get approval from council, but if that's what they want to do, we could, but to throw that option out there instead of, because the original motion was for us to go bid that. Otherwise, we would have gone out, reopened this bid, waited 4 weeks for bids to come back, and come back to you guys in August with those bids. That was the motion we had. But this, I'll let Margot explain a little bit more, but this was an alternative idea.
I'll move forward. Can you hear me? All right. So there were some concerns. I know some members voiced concerns at the last council meeting about needing future work. When the directive was given to go back to doing the saw cutting option, removing the electric, removing the brick detail and all of that. And so, and then that could be done in the future. And there were a couple concerns that were voiced then about moving forward without doing the whole project. So when I talked to Joe, he did have a couple concerns about the 4-week bid time and then rebidding this into the middle of summer. And so he suggested that as far as being an expedient option was, since he had all the specs and he had the bids, was breaking those down to a prorated quotes in phases and then going back to the bidders and seeing if they would be willing to accept it for phase 1, being the phase 1 from State Street to Spring Street. West of State Street was caused an increase in the price, partly just because of the electric issues of going across State Street and getting electric over there. So that he thought that it might be most expedient to go back to the bidders, see if they might be willing to accept a bid at a prorated amount for the next year, for the fall. And they did, and I think you have that number. So Elmer's came back at $105,847.40, and Harbor X came back at $96,013, $13.36. That was without the brick detail. With the brick detail, Harbor X came in as the low bid at $108.74.22. Either way, they were the low bidder. And then Elmer's at $117.47.40. So that verbally they agreed that they would be willing to do that. The reason Elmer's didn't come down as the lower bidder, as they did in the first bid, was they said that their ratio of their mobilization and traffic, which was part of the problem in the large bid, where that came back at $43,000 in the overall project, they didn't really budge much. Harbor X traffic and mobilization is quite a bit less than theirs.
Why is it traffic and mobilization?
I think it was, they were saying, I'm guessing honestly that it was probably more to do with the project size and just the cost that that speculation is that it's.
It might be state highway too.
It's a state highway. That's,
I've worked on Main Street my entire life. We're doing sidewalks. We've never shut the road down.
A little more.
Replacing sidewalks? No. So I got a problem with that. I think we should put this on hold for next year. Because we're still spending $200 and some odd $1,000.
Right.
Right.
So there's too many, I had way too many questions in here.
Does this bid have the engineering added into it yet?
No, as far as the engineering costs that we have already put into it, no.
I sent that to you
You
guys.
sent out an update. To date, the project is, what, 11,000 and change?
In engineering.
1942.
Yeah.
I have a problem with doing this for the simple fact that it's not something that's a necessity. And if we go through with it, next year we have to find a way to pay for next year's. And I have a feeling we're going to be maybe taking away from something that might be more important than putting grates down on the streets for the trees. Until we have a fundraiser to take care of this, I don't think we should go ahead with it.
So would that be,
I don't think we should start it because it's twice as much as we were willing to pay. And I mean, where are we going to get the money next year? It's going to be like $150,000.
under
Where are
28?
we going to get the funds to finish it?
Yeah, we've already postponed a couple of, the
walkway,
boardwalk's been postponed a couple times.
2-3 years now.
Right, I mean,
So last council meeting, we did approve to go rebid it without the electric. And so would this be, let's forget that motion?
I don't think we should do the
and-
grades period until we can do it properly. And
Margot, here, it says remove and salvage trees under 3 diameter, remove trees at 3 diameter. I mean, that's like $10,000, but then we're replacing all the other trees.
Mhm.
I mean,
It was replacing, and that was one of the differences in the beginning when we had initially, I think, came to council. It was replacing only some of the trees, and then after the tree advisory board and the arborist, on their recommendation, it was to remove all of the trees and salvage those that could be saved, which were under 3 inches caliper, and then replace all of the new trees so that they could come in with a warranty. And so, yeah, overall, that's a $30,000 cost for all 38 trees.
I'm almost ready to make a motion that we cut all the trees down and just pour concrete. Because you guys have taken a gift and turned it into, I don't know what you turned it. I don't want to say in public what you guys have turned this into. And I'm not blaming you, Margot, Kathy was smart to leave. We gave you guys a gift and you screwed it up. And I'm with Cece. I say we pulled the plug on the whole thing. and start over again another time. We'll go back and we'll finish some projects that we've been putting off. And, you know, I'm sorry I brought this up 2 years ago or a year and a half ago, whenever I brought it up. It was all a big, it's turned into a big mistake. And I'm sorry you have to take the brunt of it. I know you put a lot of work into it, but it's, I mean, it's just, it's gotten to the point, it's gonna be, you know, 350 grand by the time we get done, because you don't know what's gonna happen. And that's a big chunk of change. So I don't know how you guys feel about it. That's how I feel.
I really like this project. I think what we've learned is that the project that we really want is a whole lot more expensive than we thought it was gonna be. And I don't think internally within the DDA and within the city, we've given it enough thought, now that we have actual hard data. So I think we should postpone it. I think we should take it back. I'm not saying I want to give up on it, but I think we should take it back and it should become a project that gets refined, that becomes part of a normal budgeting process. So we're not trying to shoehorn it into a year where we didn't budget for it. And if it flies, it flies. And if after that it doesn't fly, then we shouldn't do it.
Well, we did budget for it for this year.
We did budget.
$100,000 was in our
We
2020.
did budget $280,000, which is what it's gonna cost. And we can't do anything close to what we want to do for the $100,000.
It's
Right.
not about what we want to do, it's about what we budgeted for.
So that's why that's why we present this option as phase one, where if you did phase one for about $108,000, then this council could say, you know what, next year we're not going to do, we can't do phase two for another 5 years. So we'll come back 5 years later and do, that was why we brought this option right now.
Okay, on that front, if we're gonna do one phase, we have to do them all. We're not gonna do one and then say, oh, we can't afford to follow up with phases 2 and 3. It'll look stupid. So either do it or we don't. And we didn't budget for the type of project that it's turned into, so let's just postpone. Let's go back and rethink.
I'll make a motion, we postpone this to a later date and look at it in-house with some value engineering and some different things on how this can be done differently without paying an engineering company more money to do something that this can easily be taken care of within the infrastructure of the city.
I think for the electric part, we need engineers involved. So if we're going to do the electric replacements, the engineers need to be involved in that part. That's just, I think that's truth. So if we want to include electric in part of this project, they have to be involved. If we're not going to include electric in this project, because we were going to do things without even Squire's input and Benchmark's input about the electric. And if they didn't catch that, we kind of probably messed up on
it's
going
not-
under the
that's not-
streets.
Benchmark's already done their work. I don't think we need to keep paying Benchmark money to go ask questions.
No,
We have enough educated people within the city that can go through this and make it less expensive. I mean, maybe we just run the conduit down the road and look at our electrical crew doing some things. Our electrical crew can run the conduit. I mean, I think there's just some ways that we can make this less expensive, but we can't do it right now. And I agree that if we do one phase, we need to do them all, but we're not prepared to do them right now. So I make a motion, we put this on hold until we can crunch details further.
I second that.
Matt Bogira.
Yes.
CC Johnston,
Yes.
Mike Natarkis,
Yes.
John Cups,
Yes.
John Leo,
Yes.
motion carried.
And Mark, I respect all your work you put in. It's just, I think there's just a lot here that needs to be thought through.
Okay. Anything else? You know what business?
Just wondering if anything else has gone on with the, so we're talking about benchmark and different things. Is anything going on with the underpass?
Yep, I just don't know that we still don't have a date for when they're coming back yet. They're going to come back.
Do we have that in writing? Because isn't their warranty going to be up here pretty soon?
Yeah, Lucas and Benchmark have both been talking with them. So I don't know if Lucas is on the phone, but yeah, they've they've been talking about trying to get them back here, so. They're just
Well, I think-
with the 3-month COVID, they've
Well,
been just
yeah, but
obliged to.
that doesn't matter when it comes to warranty. I mean, a year of warranty or whatever it is on that project. I mean, if they don't come back and do something, we're screwed.
They're gonna come back and do something.
So,
Have they acknowledged it's a defect?
Yeah, they've acknowledged through several different emails with Lucas and Benchmark, so.
I'm just worried we were gonna get
That's a good point.
screwed.
We don't want them to say, oh, sorry, the warranty's over, we're not liable anymore.
Nope.
And part of that is also to deal with the temporary.
The temporary fencing.
Up at the top.
Yep.
Look, yeah, temporary.
If there's nothing else, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for coming.